running around outside, it's jumping around in the house. My child likes to jump and down on the couch. So anywhere they can find ways to play using their arms and legs. And then fine motor, it could be anything from coloring, drawing, building. We know young children like Legos, as well as stacking blocks and making towers. Problem solving. So that's one of the key things that we want young children to learn, is how to solve their own problems. And then if they are able to do that, and how they can do it with toys. Also doing it with their peers, problem solving. So being able to not fight over a toy, but how to figure out how they both can play with a toy. And then personal social domain is all about those self-help skills and how they can interact with others. So what is more important is when a child is social and they interact with young children, and that's all included in play. So putting all of those domains together, how can we have children learn through play? And that's the majority of how young children learn, is through that play. So like cognitive skills is all about that problem solving and communication. So they can do pretend grocery stores. The physical ability, I kind of talked about this a second ago, and that's like balancing blocks, running around the playground, running around your house, running around outside. I know right now it's so hard for young children to have interactions with other kids, whether it's just their siblings. Most kids are home now, some are in school, but a lot of children are lacking that social interaction. So we can kind of talk a little bit more of some ideas on how to incorporate play while they're at home right now. New vocabulary. When they're playing, they're able to say they're playing with toy dinosaurs. They can describe what the dinosaurs are doing. Children are very theatrical, so pretend play is important as well. So being able to gain new vocabulary while they're playing is all about that learning process. Social skills, playing, if they're playing with their siblings, or they are playing with other children, you can do a pretend car wash, you can do a pretend kitchen. They can pretend they're mom and dad and they're going to be cooking, or I would love for them to pretend to do the laundry. That would be really good. And then literacy skills. So it's like creating a menu, for their pretend restaurant that they have, or what you're going to make for dinner. So there's a lot of things that kids can do during play that they're also gaining new skills around those domain areas. So why is it important? So that's why we're all here tonight, is it helps children grow strong and healthy. It also counteracts obesity. So we keep kids moving and active, which is also a huge issue that we face today. Especially, we're all home so much. I'm pretty sure everyone I've talked to has said I've gained 10 pounds. So in the winter months, before, in the summer during COVID, we still could go outside. We would wear masks. I've seen families go for walks and hikes and try to find something interactive to do. Now it's hard. It's cold out, and so kids are not able to be outside as much as we would want them to be. So we have to find those ways to release all of that energy while being at home. So reducing play also reduces stress. So what a perfect time now to talk about that with everything that we're going through. Play helps kids grow emotionally. It makes them happy when they're interacting with others, or sometimes some kids just like to play by themselves. Building Legos, or building projects, or just like coloring. And anything with art is always a great way for kids to play and learn. It provides rich learning opportunities, and it leads them to good self-esteem. So I'm going to kind of, does anyone have any questions as we've gone so far?
There's none in the chat, but I do have one question.
Okay.
When you were talking about how important is play in terms of social emotional growth, I've come in many instances, some families have concerns about is it normal for children to avoid specific social situations, and how can families help children who are naturally shy or who might need a little extra help with their social interactions? What can parents do?
That's a great question. So I have a few answers. Young children grow when they're around peers. So children learn from children. So we always say we encourage parents to have children play with other children. It's sometimes it's not uh it's not, some parents don't have that opportunity where there are other kids in their neighborhood or there's other kids to play with. So we want to encourage, either there's play groups at libraries, there is, if the child is enrolled in an early childhood program, look into that. Even if there is just a half day program, a couple of days a week, it's at least getting the kids out of the house and interacting with other kids. It builds their confidence. I think in regards to children being shy, it's a double side here. Is it because the child has lack of interaction with other children? And some children just aren't, they have that nurturingness with their parents and they're kind of not ready to leave that yet. But just, I would say little by little. So maybe just do one time a week at a library play activity. Check out local libraries. All of them have 0 to 5 programs for kids. So, maybe go once a week and just, so word am I looking for? Give some sort of interaction, start in baby steps, and then the child may be more open to being not so reserved around kids. And then also too, parents talking to their kids about play dates and the importance about being around other kids and really encouraging them. So I think that's important too.
Absolutely.
I think that question is so important because we think about right now too. I mean, I'll be honest, I sleep with my 7-year-old every night. It's ever since COVID. So all our children are just going through so many emotions. And so I think it's hard. There's that little nurturing thing because you hear things and they're not really sure emotionally how to handle them. So it's kids pulling back a little bit from those interactions because they've also been home with us for so long. So I encourage to try to have some sort of play date with another kid. I will be honest, I'm nervous about my child being around other kids, but what I've done is he has one friend in his classroom who he's played with for years, since he was in kindergarten. So we have this small little bubble that he plays in. So I feel safe knowing that he's in that little bubble.
Absolutely. And Bethanne, I wanted to add that Heather comment on our chat box that she says, I'm a developmental specialist and this is harder with children in the autism spectrum disorder.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And because children on the spectrum have lack of engagement and rarely want to play with other children. So that is hard. But I think I also think some sort of peer interaction is good. At least, having something with one other child, not an overwhelming amount of children, but she is absolutely right. That's a struggle.
Absolutely. And David also comment about how, for his child being hard to follow others. He just wants to do what he wants to do. So that relates to a child wanting to drive the process as well. So how do we balance that? How do we know, like, I'm going to let him do what he wants to do, or this should be monitored and I should kind of mediate that interaction?
I'm so sorry you broke up for a second. Can you repeat that question?
No problem. I think I was just brainstorming as I speak that when do we say, I'm going to let him, follow his play skills, or I'm going to try to help him with this? Like, how do you balance that?
Well, I think personally, it is a hard balance, but it's baby steps too. So maybe doing one thing at a time, and he may pull away and say this, it might be too much. And we think about children also on the spectrum too, sensory is a huge thing. So, if it's overwhelming, so knowing what makes them comfortable and knowing what areas of play that is good, then I would slowly use that balance. Did that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you, Bethanne.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Not at this time. I don't
Okay.
think.
So I want to kind of talk about different ages and the importance of play. So I know that, you know, we talk about young children in that 0 to 12. You know, it's not really, it's more baby. So how can you have playtime? Well, playing with babies is just as important as you would play with older kids. Um, you know, teaching baby songs such as Itsy Bitsy Spider and Patty Cake. You know, babies love to hear and learn these songs and anticipate and company moving. So songs that have hand gestures or dancing, that's what they thrive on, and they love that interaction. So I encourage that type of play with babies. Bubbles, you know, you don't have to go put bubbles in a bath. When you're washing dishes, just put extra dish soap in, so then you could put the child on the chair next to you, and they can just put their hands in the bubbles and then kind of sing about their popping and use big words such as bubbles. And this is a big sink of bubbles. And crawling too, you know, to be as playful. I think just to take a step back, I think a lot of people think that you have to go buy all these like baby toys. People are so hyper focused on that. You don't. I mean, yeah, you can have rattles and you can have teething stuff, but it's also just stuff in your house. Like you can make tunnels with pillows, and you know, as your you know, 6 and 7 month and 8 month old is crawling, make tunnels that they go through. Give baby opportunities to do cause and effect. So dropping things on the floor and then they try to like pick it up. You know, put toys that are out of reach so they can reach it. Putting Tupperware in the kitchen. If you're trying to cook dinner, put some Tupperware in the kitchen, and then they just can stack them up. I know when my son was little, I used to put pots and pans. And then sometimes he would just take the water and pour it in and out. So it's just little things that you can do. You don't need to go buy tons of toys at the store. With younger children, the 6 to 12, it's about those interactions. You know, 6 and 12 months old, they can play by themselves for a couple minutes, and then they lose that whole span and they want interactions. So just thinking of creative ideas. Don't go run to Target and Walmart and buy a lot of toys. There's tons of things in your house that you can do. So a year to 18 months, this is when young children are on the move. So of course, we always want to keep safe, but it also produces them to have big muscles, build their big muscles. And so climbing and crawling and walking. So going for walks, walking around the house, even going outside and just pointing out to different things that you see, like trees and cars and signs. That really helps building children's literacy. In regards to doing some more play activities, you can just do simple social games like peekaboo, rolling a ball around, stacking blocks, and just singing songs and having them mimic what you're saying. Again, those empty containers, wooden spoons are really good too. And then puzzles of trying to put pieces together. Simple and inexpensive objects are some of the best ways to support children's creativity. It's parents and caregivers' presence that enriches children. It's not necessarily fancy electronic gadgets or fancy toys. It's you that makes them happy. So that whole play from 0 to 2 years old is really more of adult interactions that they thrive on, until we hit the terrible twos. So again, like the 18 to 24 months, so almost to 2 years old, most children have at least 6 or 7 words. So you can go in the car and sing songs or go for walks, and then also have them try to repeat songs that you're doing. play ball, just throw a ball around, whether it's in the house, if you're both sitting down and your legs are kind of open and you're pushing the ball back and forth, that helps fine motor. And also helps social interactions with the young child. So 18 to 24, they're really kind of finding their own selves and they're a little bit of their own independence. A little pretend play comes in too. So I encourage that as well. So here we are, 2 to 3-year-olds. 2 to 3-year-olds are at that point where they like playing with adults, but they start to thrive being around other children. So I know I've played about 1,000,002 games of hide and seek in our house. It's still a popular thing to do, especially during COVID when we were all home. We played lots of games of hide and seek. Providing opportunities for pretend play. For example, you can have a tea party or you can pretend you're Spider-Man. I used to take blocks and then we used to just pretend we were Superman and run into the blocks and knock them all over. So again, having, you don't need to buy a lot of things as they're this young. You can just build things at home. Follow the leader. I used to do it to help with small chores around the house. Young children want to learn to be independent and they want to, start to do things and mimic what mom and dad do. So it's a little bit of like some pretend play. So I used to do a little follow the leader and help me pick up things. And that helped also teaching self-independence.
And
Yep.
I'm sorry, I wanted to add, I also feel that in pretend play, children are also learning empathy and they're also learning turn taking and they're learning social rules, if you will, as they play. So that's why it's so important, right?
Exactly. That especially empathy too. I think that 2 to 3 is when they're really starting to understand other people's feelings. And then as an adult, we're expressing to them, well, I'm happy today because I'm happy because we're, going to visit grandma or we're going to visit so-and-so or, or I'm sad that so-and-so can't play or I'm, I'm mad that we don't have any milk left. So using those social emotional words as young as 2 to 3 is really important because they're learning them. What else is really important at 2 and 3 is routines. I think having routines is super important for young children because it makes them successful as they go on. As I know, sometimes, you try to have a routine and, you get home from work, you make dinner and then the family eats together or they don't. And then, it's bath or shower, read a book or watch TV and then go to bed. But keeping those routines is really important starting at the age of 2 because they know what's going to happen next. There's less chance for meltdowns if we keep a good set routine. So that's kind of important, just throwing in a little social emotional advice there. 2 to 3 too is take a box of chalk and go outside and draw on the driveway or draw on the sidewalk. It really builds that fine motor during play. And then showing them different ways to make marks, whether it's like making dots or you're starting to make lines or like swirls, like clouds. And so most children try to mimic when you're drawing something. So I encourage that outdoor or and then also indoor, just doing coloring. Coloring just engages kids so much because it also lets them use their imagination. I am not the best drawer, so I tried my best. I'm pretty sure when he was 3, his dinosaurs look better than mine did. So, but it's time together, it's creative, and you're letting them be independent.
And I think to add to what you said, they're also practicing their fine motor skills. I remember when my son was little, the occupational therapist will give us Play-Doh and she will hide things in it and she will make him physically try to find them.
Yes.
And I thought that was a great example of how he can build those fine motor skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can make your own Play-Doh at home. Just Google it. It's super easy. It's like flour, water, and I think cream of tartar. I used to do that all the time. Probably almost burnt my hands a couple of times, but Practice makes perfect. But that's the other thing, and you just put coloring dye, and it lasts like a good couple of weeks. So Play-Doh too and it also engages kids for a while with play and uses their imagination. So another great option. And also too, if anybody really likes the PowerPoint and likes some of the ideas, we're happy to send you guys this PowerPoint. So 3 and 4-year-olds is where they have are really thrive for independence. They thrive to be around other kids, but we try to find that balance of play at home with mom and dad and then play with other kids. But I think too, it's hard because 3 and 4-year-olds have an attention span of like 10 to 15 minutes. So they get excited, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna cook. Oh, you want me to? I'm gonna cook dinner with you. And like after like the 3rd ingredient, they're done and gone. But it also, excuse me, it also helps them in good math and literacy skills too. If you're having them count out, if you're making something, counting out, how many cups do we have to pour in here. So that helps. And it's also a good bonding time too. Helping them, helping you do small tasks is engaging, like setting the table, and putting some sort of responsibility that it builds their independence. And also 3 and 4-year-olds too, I encourage, this is the age where I encourage to try to do some play dates. I encourage trying to childcare, any type of early childhood program, whether it's Head Start, whether it's a childcare program. But again, this is how those crucial age of 3 to 4, where children really gain other skills when they learn from their peers. So it's truly really important to have those interactions with other kids.
Absolutely. Bethanne, we have a question in the
Sure.
chat. My son has many routines, but when we don't follow them, he has a meltdown. He gets angry if we don't do it. How can we help parents whose children are very strict and in their routines and in their behaviors, engaging meaningful play?
So it's funny because I was a crazy Nazi routine person, and I know people like laughed at me, but you're right. When you fall out of those routines, the kids do have meltdowns. And I know that life changes and things happen and we get busy, and parents have a really hard job, especially working parents. I did this work, training and teaching for young children before I had a child. And it was easy for me to say it. And then I had a child. And I was like, oh my God, how do we juggle all of this? We're all going to fall out of those routines sometimes. Not every day is going to be perfect. But you said a key thing when the routines weren't being followed, or you weren't having consistency, there was a meltdown. But it shows you again, like that's how young children thrive, is knowing what's next. And when they don't know what's next, it's a meltdown.
Yeah.
So don't beat yourself up, because we all do it. We all like say, okay, 7 o'clock, you got to get in the shower. And then you look, it's like 7:40. You're like, oh my God. So, but keeping it as you can, but there's going to be days where you don't, and you can't beat yourself up.
Absolutely. And Heather comments, pictures and visual schedules can help with that as well.
Yeah. Yep. I would do a schedule on our refrigerator, and a lot of families do that too when they are trying to teach those routines. I have a great video that I share in one of my trainings, is a boy who is on the spectrum, and it's just a really good point about why routines and transitions and warnings is important. So if you're going to go to the store, or you have plans to go somewhere, and your child is playing or watching TV, and you just walk in the room and say, hey, we're going to go now, let's go. And what do you think is going to happen? Meltdown. So, giving those warnings are so important. Like, even if children don't understand what 5 minutes is, they know it's a warning of what's going to happen next. So in 5 minutes, we're going to do this. It gives them something, even if they don't understand the time. But children who are on the spectrum, those transitional warnings are super important. So this video that we share is a boy who's just watching TV, and mom just walks in and hands him his coat and says it's time to go. Well, he just had a huge meltdown. He was running around the house and he just had a horrible time. But, if mom had given him a warning, it would have helped him. So it's typical children, and then children that may have a developmental delay or children that are on the spectrum is a big struggle. So that's, I think, goes across the line.
Thank you, Bethanne. I agree.
Does that help?
Yes, and I recall when my son was little, he struggled tremendously with transitions, as you said, and we were able to find a clock, a visual clock that actually you could set it for 15 minutes and it would go red for that period of time, and then he knew it was time to transition into something, to another activity, and it was less of a struggle for him. So they sell those clocks. I'm aware of that, and there's many other things that you can do to help them, like you said, prepare the change, because they need predictability.
Yeah, they have, and you can go on Amazon. Walmart has them. They have ones that kind of like light up warnings. So like blue, it goes blue, yellow, green, and green means go. So those light up. There's so many different options out there. If there's like an electronic device in your house, like an iPad, or you could put a timer on that too. And how can help you do the timer. So being a partner in that timer is really good too. Any other questions?
I just want to add something to the routine thing. When my son was little, it was very hard to keep the routine, because when we have to change, or I remember you used to go to the therapist in one way, and if you change the way, like the other dad said, the meltdown, the anger, and then I at least for me, I don't know if any other parents here had the experience, I decide to life is not always going to be the same. So it's hard to keep that. So I decide doing purpose, little things, little changes, because I'm one day, the road was blocked. There was no way to go that way. And then I'm he's going to have to learn, even though it's hard for us parents to deal with the meltdown, that things not always is going to happen as the routine that we establish. It's very hard and frustrating. So we start doing on purpose sometimes, change one turn and explain, it will have an accident, or start visually showing something that, we have to go this way because the car broke. And even though he could see and everything, it still happened, the meltdown. But I realized what we're going to do, and the routine, for some reason, or the weather or whatever reason that's out of our control, happen. So I started in purpose doing things to kind of break the pattern, okay, first you do this, then that, because I'm what if you can't do this? In my life, never had a routine, so it was hard to keep it track. So I felt it was hard keeping changing. It was the best way to have success, at least for my kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vanessa, I give you so much credit. That's amazing what you did.
It wasn't easy.
And I God bless you. But I know when there's that hyper focus that young children have, does he have ASD?
Yes, it was very hard. And then I remember my mom used to take him to visit my grandmother, which was a block away, in a stroller. And if she changed a little bit, he was having a meltdown. And I told her, you have to stop, talk to people, or change a little things so he get used to, because that's going to be part of life. Not always you're going to go straight without stopping, if you see someone. And trust me, it was a lot of meltdowns, a lot of frustration, a lot of crying, kicking, and things flying. But I thought that was the easiest way so they can learn. Not always. In our house, everything was perfect. But I'm what are we going to do when we out of the house? You know, people, by the time you explain to somebody, the child is already having a meltdown, and you either help the kids because they're normal little, or you try it. So it was kind of impossible a lot of times. So I decided, like, no, little by little, we cannot always keep the routine, because life is not always going to be that way outside of our castle, you know, outside of our house. And trust me, it was hard, but you know, at least for us today, he's 13 years old. I think it was the best thing I did, because now I can go to the grocery store. I can go to things that I wasn't able to do before, because exactly, if something happened in the middle, out of my control, then boom.
Right.
You know, and I encourage parents with little kids, like, no matter who you're going to get the looks, you're going to get people making comments, just don't stop. Just help your child and ignore it, and just little by little keep doing, I don't know, little changes to, you know, help them to understand the world, you know, that's not always gonna be, we're not gonna always be perfect.
And you know what? No child is perfect, no parent is perfect, and no situation is perfect. There's always going to be bumps in the road, and we can't expect, first of all, we can't, as parents, we can't expect ourselves to be super, as mothers, super women. You know, we're gonna hit bumps and we're gonna make mistakes. But it's what we learn, and we know going forward, we have the best intentions and the love for our children. And so, you know, if other parents look, you know, I mean, they don't know to be in our shoes and what we're going through. I remember, like, my child threw himself on the ground in the middle of the grocery store, and I was mortified. But I mean, we got over it. But yeah, I mean, it's just like takes all of that energy and all of that, like you can go home and take a nap because you're just so drained emotionally too. So, but thank you so much for sharing, Vanessa. That's an amazing story, and congratulations on the great work that you've done for him.
Thank you. It's still a trial every day. New challenge come, but we cannot give up.
Yes. And the challenge will always be there.
Exactly.
So, is there any other questions before we go to 4 and 5 year olds?
I don't see any in the chat, but if anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to unmute and share.
I know we've kind of gone off topic, but and I apologize. But when we want children to be developmentally growing developmentally, be successful, and that's in everything that they do. It's in social emotional, it's in communication, it's in cognitive learning, problem solving, and all of those skills go into play. So, and routines make children happy, and routines make children successful. So if we got off topic a little bit, but this is how young children learn and how they thrive. So when they're thriving, they're happy, and they're wanting to be doing all different types of things and different activities. So the last age when I'm going to talk about is 4 and 5 year olds. You know, again, it just past that 3 year olds, they thrive to be around other kids. But when we think about where 4 and 5 year olds, they're in little investigators too. They want to learn more. They start to kind of do more independent play. It's not as necessarily that they have to have mom and dad around. But, you know, having a play date, listen, we're all parents that work and trying to balance everything. You know, sometimes I'm trying to make dinner and my son wants me to, you know, play hide and seek or, you know, I'm like, but I got to cook dinner. So it is so hard to balance everything, but I try to set time aside every day, especially now with homeschooling, working, etc. My brain is done by 4 o'clock, but I try to carve out like an activity at least once a day that we're doing something together and we're engaging, whether it's taking the dog for a walk or we're going outside, going for a hike. kicking the soccer ball around or doing something, 30 minutes to 45 minutes of something. But I will also say that I learned a good lesson that children can be bored. So, we do our best to engage kids, but they also can learn to be bored. And so when they're bored, sometimes they start to think of be a little more creative in their own play. So we encourage that boredom sometimes so they can start thriving and being more creative by themselves. Give your child time and space to do like imaginary things, whether it's putting up a fort in the living room or a fort in their bedroom, and that they're taking a book in there and just kind of building some sort of like imaginary house. Allowing your child to move around the house to make make-believe games, or even if it's like a reality game that they're trying to do. I always try to do chores too. I always try to find a way to add in some chores. So that's another way of engaging kids to be able to do some sort of play. But again, kids can be bored. They can find things for themselves to do. Don't think as parents that we have to entertain 24/7. They'll always find something to do. But I think too, we think about the time that we're in now, children are really bored. So how are we filling up that time, those boredom buster times? I probably have thought of like 50 million things I could try to do. And then I ran out of all of those ideas by, I would say, the end of April. But now, as the summer came, the warmer weather, we got outside more. But now it's colder, so we're not doing as many interactions with other people as we were before when we were able to go outside. So trying to be innovative in the house has been, kind of hard. I actually started to cook with my son, so he's learning how to cook with me, and doing different painting activities, building, also just having conversations. Making up silly stories and then them making up a silly story. And that just engages conversation too, and it's good communication skills. So I try to find any ways to be interactive, but as parents, you also need to take time out for yourself, and be able to take that time for yourself too. So don't feel that you have to amuse your child 24/7. But just carve out a time every day to be able to do some sort of play. Questions?
Yes, we have a question. Is it normal for an 8-year-old to always want to play?
No. No. I'm sorry. No, it is normal. Is it a boy?
And
Yes.
Eugenia, feel free to.
Yes.
Yeah, there you are.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. So I'm going through that now too. Yeah, boys are like a different species. They want to play nonstop. But we also have to, they have to figure it out for themselves sometimes too. Yes, I say carve out a little time and do some activities with your kids, but also let him go and do something. He has to learn to be bored and go and be imaginary in his own play. It's not easy.
No, it's not. And I
Examples.
mean, sometimes he's in the middle of his meeting and he will go and grab some Lego and just start playing. I'm like, you're not paying attention. If you're playing, you're not paying attention. As soon as he get a break, he will go and grab Play-Doh and he's like building something with Play-Doh. His mind is like into playing. If you ask him, hey, Christian, what do you want to eat? Well, I would like to play with a tablet.
So I will tell you, it's hard. Boys, especially, they're movers. Like it's hard for kids to sit for long periods of time. Is he at home? He's doing school at home?
For now, he is, because the school probably is gonna open on Monday, the 19th, but he's been home for 2 weeks right now.
Yeah, and it's hard to sit in the same position for periods of time and look at a screen. And anybody talking to, and someone coming and talking to us for like increments of 30 to 35 minutes, it's hard. As adults, it's hard for us to sit on meetings now via Zoom for long periods of time. So he is going to be fidgety, but during those breaks, let him go play. Maybe give him something to hold onto when he's in those Zoom meetings, or Google Meet, whatever way the technology is for your school. Give him something that's sensory for him to hold onto while he's in those meets, and that will help his fidgetiness. But it is hard. You're expecting young children. I mean, as adults, can you sit for 3 or 4 hours on a computer just in a meeting? Oh God, no. It's exhausting. So to think for young kids that have to sit there, it's hard. They all love screen time, but they don't love screen time of school.
That is
And
true.
losing that face-to-face, that like they're relating to the teacher and they're having the kids and their other peers with them, it's much easier. So boys are very fidgety. So yeah, definitely give him something to hold on to while he's sitting there. And if the teacher says anything, just say, you know what, he needs something that he's very fidgety, and this helps him not become so fidgety during the lecture time.
And the other problem is that he has ADHD, so it's more difficult for him.
Yes. So definitely give him something. Let him play with Play-Doh in his hands while he's on. That's going to help him. Yeah, I've heard a lot of families share with me kids that have ADD and ADHD during these times on school via Zoom and Google Meet. It's hard. I mean, it's already hard for them to have that struggle of being able to sit for long periods, and then you're on a computer screen. So it doesn't make it any easier. So definitely, but good thing he's going back next week. So hopefully that will help.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, let him play with Play-Doh. Let him take those breaks, because he probably does need them. He's got, a lot of kids that have ADHD, ADD, and any that age, they have a lot of energy they need to get out. I don't know if this is an option for you, but during one of the brain breaks that my son has, I make him go outside and run around for like 5 minutes, do laps, or ride a bike in the driveway, or do something like that. It gets rid of some energy. Did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Not right now. I think there's none in the chat.
So I just want to kind of go back to the importance about being essential to children's development. We all know that life will get more structured as children get older. So that's why another reason that play is so important, because it helps children it builds their confidence in being able to do things. So if they're trying to learn to ride a bike, it builds confidence. If they're trying to build a hard Lego set that requires a lot of steps, it builds confidence. So if you're doing drawing, it builds confidence in them improving on their skills. So you're learning so much. And as Adriana was saying earlier about the whole social emotional piece, and being able to problem solve and also have that balance of patience too. A lot of young children don't have patience. So play also balances that, so they're able to, if they keep on building something and they're getting so frustrated, most children don't know how to get rid of that frustration. So they'll just break the Legos. So this play also helps them build that confidence so they can build that Lego set and not get so frustrated. And if they are getting frustrated, they're able to explain their feelings and why they're not successful in what they're building. So it's not just playing with Legos. It's not just kicking a ball around the house or hide or seek or follow the leader. This is really helping them develop those important skills that we want young children to learn 0 to 8, which is like physical, social, and emotional, and then cognitive skills. So it really builds it. And if you have concerns about some of the way that your children are playing, if you're concerned about not wanting to, if it's beyond that shyness, as one parent was asking earlier, you know, my child is shy and doesn't want to be around other kids, it's building her confidence. But if that continues where she or he doesn't want to interact with other kids, or you see them tend more want to play, if you're at a playground and there's tons of kids there and your child is all the way in the corner, those are areas that then you would want to be concerned about not engaging. So I would definitely recommend just, you know, talking to your pediatrician.
Definitely. And the same for parents who receive birth to three. Birth to three providers are amazing. They're wonderful. They're there to support you and coach you in the natural environment and the learning opportunities for your child. So even if you're struggling with routines, even if changing activities is it's really difficult for your child, they can help you. And you can talk to them about how to integrate in routines that work for the child. I know many of the parents that are part of our Family Connections program have children in the spectrum, and this is a huge factor. And we also have to take into account the sensory needs, and I think Bethanne talked about it briefly, and realize that this is the way they process information from their senses, whether it's tactile or through your eyes, through your ears. So their responses sometimes are maladaptive because they're processing at a different rate that you and I do. So we need to be conscious of that. I have some families that tell me, but at this point, with all the interventions that we have in place, he should be doing more. You know, give him time, like you said, one day at a time, and always try your best. I think we're all in this together, and that's what it's so important that we continue to build that confidence in our children.
Right. And just to add a couple other things. So I think we sometimes families forget birth to three is about the family. It's not just about the child. And so that's why you have that individual family support plan. So it's about supporting the family. And so birth to three is there to help as well. And I know that a lot of times therapies, or if you're having an OT or a PT or special ed, most activities that they're doing to provide intervention is through play. So all of those strategies that are being used to improve child's development is through play, because that's how children learn. Even when children go, if they're after birth to three and they need an IEP, they qualify. When you're going to those preschool classrooms, again, they're using play to teach children and also help with strategies in regards to their individual education plan. So if it's communication, we're going to be doing some songs that are helping building language during circle time. Or so again, and if a child has an IFSP or an IEP, those interventions are through play.
Excellent. Thank you, Bethanne. And I have a couple of comments in the chat.
Sure.
Heather says, parents need to know that therapies in birth to three or after three are through play. Yeah. Parents ask us all the time, why are you just playing? This is how we build rapport with your child and slowly introduce strategies for speech and other therapies. Play is important. I laugh because when my child was receiving early intervention, and this is ages ago, I used to say, okay, so, but they come in the house and they play, but I thought it was like a clinical setting, and that's how therapists need to be. So I was one of those parents when my child was little. But after I understood how the model works, I was like, this is amazing. I know my role. I know I can make the difference in my child. So thank you, Heather. And
Heather, that's such a great comment too, because not just the birth to 3, if we look in early childhood programs, if it's childcare or Head Start, I used to have parents all the time be like, they're not learning. They're like, you know, they'd be like, she'd come in the room and they're in centers and she'd be like, well, that's not learning. They're not learning anything. I'm like, they are. And I would just give the list of, well, these are our centers. These are our writing centers. This is our creative play center. And through creative play, they're learning imaginary. So yeah, that's how, and again, even services. And that's how children respond to those.
thank you, Bethanne. And we have another comment from Barbara. Bethanne, thank you. And thank you everyone for sharing your personal experiences. Also, thank you for the wonderful overview and information about play. So thank you so much, Bethanne. And thank you everyone for your comments, for your contributions. You know, this space was created just for you. Yeah. So if you have any questions, we will be sending the PowerPoint. And thank you so much. I am going just to ask you briefly if you could respond. I'm going to launch a poll. So just let me know if you can complete it. It's only 4 questions. Does everyone see it? I am just afraid that it's not, sometimes it's tricky with when you launch the polls on Zoom. But I think we're getting responses. 50% are completed. Thank you so much.
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. And Bethanne, you want to talk a little bit about our next session and what can we expect? I think the next session will be on February 10th, Wednesday at the same time. And the topic will be boredom busters.
Yeah, so I thought that, so I'm going to have some great ideas on how to help children with boredom. So it'll be very interactive and some good takeaways that you can do at home with kids that just things that you use in your house.
Okay, wonderful. Does anyone have any other questions, anything else they would like to add to the conversation just to kind of wrap it up?
Yes, you said it was February 5th.
The 10th.
The 10th. Would it be the same link for the meeting? The same Zoom link?
Bethanne, what do you think?
I'm sorry, what?
Is it going to be the same length?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I want to thank you everyone. Bethanne, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. This is very important for us to know how to engage our children and to know that naturally learning occurs every day with our little ones. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful night and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.